this video was made, I had not seen Cars 3.
You wait till my father hears about this.
Greetings, citizens of the internet. You can call me Nitro Indigo, and today I'll be reviewing Cars 2. I won't be discussing every single aspect of this extremely riveting movie, just the things I want to talk about. Released in the United States of America on the 24th of June 2011, Cars 2 is considered the worst Pixar movie by fans and critics alike. I've heard it was originally planned to come out in 2012, but I'm not sure how true that is. Set a few years after the first movie, Cars 2 begins with British spy Finn McMissile receiving a flash transmission from a fellow spy named Leland Turbo, asking him to go to an oil rig owned by a group of criminals called the Lemons to investigate a suspicious camera. Finn goes there, sees that Leland got crushed into a cube, gets spotted, kills a bunch of cars, and escapes. Meanwhile, a British car named Miles Axelrod has created a World Grand Prix to promote All in All, his new brand of magic car juice. By and large, I'd say that All in All is a pretty good pun. Lightning McQueen enters the World Grand Prix because his best friend, who shall henceforth be referred to as the Terminator, got into an argument with one of the racers on a talk show. Lightning and company go to Tokyo for the pre-race party. Finn McMissile is also there. He's investigating the Lemons, who are trying to sabotage the race, and he's due to meet an American agent who can tell him who's in charge of them. Joining Finn is Holly Shiftwell, a posh, secretary-ish lady who can fly for some reason. I'd call that a spoiler, but it's on the theatrical poster. A series of forced misunderstandings causes Finn and Holly to mistake the Terminator for the American agent, even though it's implied that Finn has met the actual American agent before. And now the idiot trio must figure out who's behind it all before it's too late. Or something. Before I get into the analytical meat of this review, here's some bullet point crudities. As you'd expect from a Pixar movie, the animation is fantastic. Uncanny facial animation notwithstanding.
Like a treasure from a sunken pirate wreck.
The music in this movie is awesome! It's better at setting the tone than the actual writing, that's for sure. The greater emphasis on the wider world comes with a greater emphasis on different kinds of vehicles, which I very much appreciate. I like seeing how different species with equal intelligence but very different physiology would coexist. Does anyone else think that Owen Wilson sounds really bored in this movie? I'm amused by the fact that in the run-up to the release of Cars 3, people were acting like cars dying or vehicles going into other vehicles were both shockingly new concepts that will change the way we view the Cars franchise forever, when they're not. This is the only work of fiction targeted towards children I've ever seen where the heroes are allowed to use guns. Now, on to the analytical meat. And this meat metaphor applies in more ways than one because I have beef with Cars 2. First of all, the pacing is terrible. It's all set up and no payoff. The beginning is amazingly atmospheric, showing us a lot of action, and sets up the tension by showing us that cars can indeed die, and both the heroes and villains are willing to kill people, vehicles, whatever. Afterwards, though, the movie spends ages setting up the characters from the first movie getting involved in the conflict. The Terminator becomes the spy 45 minutes in. The actual spy stuff has to be crammed into the remaining 55 minutes, leaving no room for character development. Every attempt to be emotional fails because it immediately cuts to the next scene. This jumpiness leads to my other major problem, the jarring juxtaposition between silly and serious. Cars 2 has some pretty dark subject matter, but it's emotionally immature. Now, there's nothing wrong with combining light-hearted and dark elements. Some of my favourite video games do that. However, there is something wrong with combining light-hearted and dark elements when the movie can't linger on any emotion for very long. The villains are presented as cartoonish, but they torture the actual American agent on screen. All of the deaths would be incredibly graphic if the characters were human, and then they never get mentioned again. There's also the fact that the movie presents itself as being black and white, when it straight up isn't. Both the Terminator and the Lemons are cars that are looked down upon by society, and Finn kills people, vehicles, whatever. But instead of the movie presenting an interesting theme about how heroes don't always do good things, and the Terminator learning the hard way that the world isn't always happy, the superficially cartoonish bad guys get defeated by the actually cartoonish caricature of what Americans think British people think Americans are like. Nothing in this movie has consequences, even when they probably should. Besides all the deaths, endangering the life of a civilian due to a misunderstanding should probably get Finn in trouble. But nope, at the end of the movie, everyone is happy and goes home and has a cup of tea, I guess. But there is one thing stopping me from hating Cars 2. Siddeley. I suppose I should explain. About 40 minutes into the movie, Finn drags the Terminator out of Tokyo International Airport and onto a runway so his plane friend Siddeley can rescue them because that's totally legal and safe. Surely he can't be Lucius.
You lost me, my servant! Finn, it's it. I'm on approach.
Of course he is, and don't call him Shirley, or it. In all seriousness, I rewatched this scene over and over and over again, so much that I started overthinking everything, such as this line. This line intrigued me. Later on in the movie, Finn warns the Terminator that friendships can be dangerous in their line of work, yet he's clearly friends with Lucius here, so what was up with that? There's also the fact that at the beginning of the movie, he's visibly shocked when he sees the cubed corpse of Leyland Turbo. This caused me to form a headcanon. Finn didn't want to get emotionally attached to anyone so he didn't feel upset if he lost them, but he and Siddeley went back a long time. I quickly became attached to this idea. It soon became the only aspect of the movie I thought about, creating a warped perception that was strengthened by some actually good fanfics, which made the characters seem way more interesting than in the actual movie. Cars 2 created feelings in me that I myself don't understand. Now, there's nothing wrong with having headcanons, but this headcanon was clouding my judgment of this movie. It was only when I decided to crack down and review Cars 2 that I finally started thinking about it clearly again. This headcanon became so strong that it made me forget why I grew to love the original Cars in the first place, the sentimentality. Cars is a movie about learning to become a better person, complete with lots of comforting orange colours. It makes me feel nostalgic, despite the fact that I had forgotten most of it until relatively recently. Cars 2, meanwhile, is a confused movie that can't decide if it's about goofy antics or the dangers of espionage, complete with lots of energetic blue colours. It's so lacking in any emotional substance, I created some sentimentality for my own enjoyment. It gave people the impression that Cars is a childish franchise where nothing has consequences, when it isn't. I have to admit, I didn't really like Cars until 2016. I thought of it as just one of those things you like when you're little, but quickly outgrow, until CinemaSins made a video about it. I watched everything wrong with Cars in 60 minutes or less so many times that I became interested in the movie again. Upon my first rewatch, I found it kind of dull. Upon my second rewatch, however, I finally realised the emotional impact of a certain plot twist, which inspired me to make my review. Plus, I was annoyed by the haters. As for what inspired this Cars 2 review, the lazily written honest trailer for it made me realise that I should stop waiting for other, more talented YouTubers to say what I wanted to say. To me, the first two Cars films represent the two different kinds of maturity. Cars 1 is emotionally mature, where people, cars, whatever, can be happy, even when the situation isn't perfect. Cars 2 is mature content-wise, where characters die on screen and the world is at stake, but it doesn't have the emotions to back that up. In summary, Cars 2 is a confused movie that has a heart in there somewhere, but it's drowning in a sea of bad pacing. It's serious half of the time and silly the other half, and neither of those halves complement each other. Maybe it could have worked as a full-on parody of spy movies? And so, I shall leave you with this conundrum. Is it better to be remembered for being bad, or to not be remembered at all?